A defeated nation, Germany, after World War I. Germany in the 1920s was a nation scarred. The First World War had left its mark not just on the landscape but on the soul of the country. Millions were dead, the economy was in ruins, and the Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, had imposed harsh penalties on the defeated nation. This treaty, meant to ensure peace, instead bred resentment and instability. It was in this fertile ground of anger and humiliation that the seeds of German rearmament were sown. The war guilt clause, forcing Germany to accept sole responsibility for the war, was deeply resented. Reparation payments crippled the German economy, already struggling from the war's devastation. The loss of territory and the limitations imposed on the German military further fueled a sense of injustice and a longing for a return to strength. These factors created an environment ripe for exploitation by those who promised to restore Germany to its former glory. The seeds of resentment, the Treaty of Versailles. Signed in the Hall of Mirrors, the Treaty of Versailles was meant to end all wars. Instead, it symbolized German humiliation and national shame. Article 231 placed sole blame on Germany, causing deep resentment. Heavy reparations crippled Germany's economy, leading to hyperinflation and poverty. Military limitations further damaged German pride. This set the stage for a leader promising to break the chains of Versailles. Hitler's rise, a promise of power. In the political and economic turmoil of the 1920s, a charismatic and ruthless figure emerged, Adolf Hitler. A decorated veteran of the First World War, Hitler shared the widespread resentment towards the Treaty of Versailles and skillfully exploited it to gain political power. He promised to restore German pride, rebuild the military, and tear up the hated treaty. His message resonated with millions of Germans who were desperate for a way out of their misery. Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, gained popularity rapidly. He used a combination of propaganda, intimidation, and violence to silence his opponents and consolidate his power. The Nazis exploited existing economic anxieties and social divisions, blaming Jews, communists, and other groups for Germany's problems. By 1933, Hitler had become Chancellor of Germany, and his grip on power was absolute. The Weimar Republic, Germany's fragile democracy, was dead and the Third Reich had begun. Section 4. Breaking the chains. The path to rearmament. Once in power, Hitler moved swiftly to dismantle the Treaty of Versailles and rebuild Germany's military might. He defied the treaty's restrictions, secretly expanding the army and navy and creating a powerful air force, the Luftwaffe. He introduced conscription in 1935, openly defying the treaty's limitations on military personnel. This move, met with only feeble protests from other European powers, emboldened Hitler further. He saw it as a sign of weakness, confirming his belief that other nations were unwilling to confront him. In 1936, Hitler took an even bolder step by remilitarizing the Rhineland, a region bordering France that had been demilitarized under the Treaty of Versailles. This was a direct challenge to the international order, and the world watched nervously as German troops marched into the Rhineland. The lack of a strong response from France and Great Britain further emboldened Hitler, convincing him that he could continue to act with impunity. Section 5. A World on Edge. International reactions to German rearmament. As Germany rearmed, alarm bells began to ring in capitals across Europe. France, still bearing the scars of the First World War, watched with growing anxiety. Great Britain, initially more conciliatory, began to reassess its position. The League of Nations proved ineffective in curbing German aggression. Despite growing concern, the response to German rearmament was hesitant and inadequate. They failed to recognize the true extent of Hitler's ambitions. Section 6. The Shadow of War. The consequences of German military buildup. The consequences of German military buildup in the 1930s were catastrophic, leading to 1-2. Emboldened by weak international response, Hitler grew confident and aggressive. He annexed Austria in 1938, claiming it as part of a Greater Germany. The Munich Agreement ceded the Sudetenland to Germany, but appeasement failed. In March 1939, Hitler occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia. He aimed for European domination, setting the stage for World War II. The shadow of the Third Reich loomed large over Europe.